Late night deliveries, empty roads, strange encounters. For most drivers, it's just another shift. But sometimes the night hides something far more sinister. From eerie abandoned houses to encounters that defy explanation, these are the terrifying true stories of DoorDash drivers who got more than just an order. They got a nightmare. So lock your doors, keep your lights on, and join me as we dive into the horror stories of DoorDash. Terrifying DoorDash. Horror stories. Let's begin. On my first day of delivering, I took an order that led me deep into a reservation, down a long, empty road lined with scattered houses. Each home sat on massive lots of land, far apart from each other, surrounded by nothing but darkness and silence. The further I drove, the more uneasy I felt. Something about the place made my skin crawl. I glanced at the house numbers, but they weren't matching up with the address on my app. I slowed down, trying to spot any sign of the right house, but there was nothing, just vast empty land and homes that looked abandoned. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just lost. I felt watched. I stopped the car to check my GPS when, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something, a dark shape moving. I snapped my head up, and there, halfway up an electrical pole, a black mass glided across the air, covering at least 10 feet before vanishing into thin air. I froze. My brain struggled to process what I had just seen. The best way I can describe it, it looked like Ghastly, the Pokemon, but without the cartoonish features. No face, no eyes, just a shifting, smoky shadow that moved in a way nothing should. It wasn't a bird. It wasn't fog. It wasn't anything natural. A chill ran down my spine. I took a deep breath and tried to shake it off. Maybe I was just tired imagining things. But when I looked around again, I noticed something else that made my stomach drop. The house I was supposed to deliver to wasn't there, at least not the way it should have been. There was a house, but it looked abandoned. Boarded up windows, overgrown yard, no sign of life, no porch light, no movement, no cars in the driveway. I checked my app again. The address was right, but this couldn't be it. Still, I sent a message to the customer, letting them know I had arrived. A few minutes passed. No answer. I tried calling, straight to voicemail. I even honked once, just in case. Nothing. At this point, every instinct in me screamed to leave. I scanned the area one last time, my heart pounding. Something about the silence felt wrong. The night was too still, too quiet. No wind, no crickets, no distant sounds of life. Just heavy, suffocating silence. Eventually, I gave up. With no house to deliver to and no response, I had no choice but to keep the sodas and leave. As I drove away, I kept glancing in my rearview mirror, half expecting to see something or someone standing in the road, watching me. Maybe a ghost ordered DoorDash. Lol. But I wasn't laughing. On my first day, I got an order that led me deep into a reservation, down a quiet road lined with houses, each sitting on large, open lots of land. As I drove, the numbers on the mailboxes didn't match up, and an uneasy feeling crept over me. I stopped the car to check my GPS when something made me look up. That's when I saw it. A black mass, halfway up an electrical pole, darting across the air before vanishing. It moved fast, covering about 10 feet in an instant. The best way I can describe it? It looked like the Pokemon Ghastly, but not cartoonish, and without a face. Just a shifting, shadowy form. To this day, that's the only order I've ever had where I couldn't find the house, get a response, or even figure out what was going on. There was no occupied house nearby that matched the address, and the customer never answered my messages. Eventually, I just gave up and kept the sodas. Maybe a ghost ordered DoorDash. LOL. I've always been into ghost hunting, In fact, I used to live in a house so active that I used a spirit box every day. It was built on old Native American land, and the strangest things happened there, I swear. But nothing compared to the night I heard it. I was outside fixing my Miata at night when the air was suddenly filled with a sound I'll never forget. It was a scream, like a woman's, but twisted, as if it were mimicking other sounds. 1 second it sounded like a crying baby, then like a horse, then like a cow, then like a human being murdered. I'd never felt terror like that before. I wasn't just scared, I felt like my life was in danger. The next day I was still so shaken that I left an offering at the spot where I heard it and apologized, just in case I had disturbed something that night. That's how real it felt. A few of us heard it, but to this day, I have no idea what could make a sound like that. Maybe some kind of lost parrot, or maybe something that wasn't supposed to be there at all.
Make sure to like and subscribe. If you have any stories you would like to share with us, our email is in the description. Let's continue.
Deliver it to the address and leave it at the door as instructed. Easy. Good pay. Simple enough. A few minutes later, I get another order, this time from Taco Bell. Immediately, I notice something strange. It's the same address I just delivered to. Now I live in Florida, where single-story homes are the norm. But this place was different. It looked like a massive apartment-style building with staircases on either side, yet it was clearly converted into a house. The instructions for this order were different too. Hand it to me, with a special note that read, "Come upstairs." Instantly, I get a bad feeling. Both orders were small, so why would someone pay double the delivery fees for restaurants that are literally 40 feet apart? Something wasn't adding up. As I pull up, I notice something else. On the first delivery, the house was completely dark. Now, every window is glowing. The curtains are drawn, but I can still see inside. The lights are on, but the place has a heavy, unsettling vibe. Still, I grab the food and head upstairs. When I knock, I can see inside. There's a TV on, but muted, and a candle flickering on the table. I text the customer, and right as I do, I notice a phone buzzing on the end table. No one picks it up. A chill runs down my spine. Something feels off. I decide to set the food down, take a picture, and leave, fast. Just as I start heading down the stairs, I hear a man's voice from inside. "Hurry up, she's leaving." I don't think. I just move. I slide down the last few steps, jump into my car, and lock the doors. But I'm not out yet. The driveway is tight, and I have to do a 3-point turn to get out. Back up, reset, pull forward. As I look up, my stomach drops. 2 large figures are standing at the upstairs window, staring down at me. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I see it. One of the downstairs doors is open. I don't know what was going on in that house, but I know it wasn't good. I called DoorDash support immediately, explaining what happened. To my surprise, they were actually helpful. The agent told me she'd be marking the location as unsafe. I'll never dash that late again, unless I absolutely have to. The service wasn't worth it. And even though I always carry protection, if they were armed and I was outnumbered, I would have been screwed. I've been driving with DoorDash for about a month, mostly at night. Last night I received an order to be delivered to a sketchy part of town but couldn't find the address. I texted the customer, but he was less than helpful, condescending even, seeming more interested in messing with me than actually receiving his food. After several frustrating texts back and forth, I decided that if he wasn't willing to help me locate his place, there was nothing more I could do but leave. I called DoorDash support and was put on hold, so they weren't much help either. When I texted the customer to let him know I was leaving, he became furious, calling me names and swearing at me. He said he was coming outside to find me, but after the way he had been acting, I didn't feel safe at all. A $6 hamburger wasn't worth the risk. As I started to drive away, a white SUV suddenly appeared right behind me. It was unsettling because I was in a dark, empty neighborhood, and this car seemed to come out of nowhere. I headed toward a busier part of the city, but the SUV remained behind me. I hoped I was just being paranoid. Was this the guy I had just argued with? I managed to lose the SUV in traffic, but still felt uneasy. I was still on hold with DoorDash support, with no answer. Then, in a different part of the city, I saw the same white SUV behind me again. That's when I really started to panic. I've been followed by a stranger before, so I tried to convince myself I was just overreacting. But how could I have lost this car in traffic, only for it to find me again? It didn't make sense. I lost it once more, but the fear remained. Then it hit me. I was still logged into the DoorDash app and still connected to the order. If I was actually being followed, this guy could see exactly where I was on the map. I pulled into a grocery store parking lot and called DoorDash support again, this time selecting the emergency option. After a few minutes, they finally answered. As I was explaining what happened, I looked across the parking lot and saw the white SUV pull into the adjacent lot, its headlights pointed toward me. Then, it backed out and started driving toward where I was parked. That's when I lost it. I floored it out of the parking lot, thankful there weren't any pedestrians in my way. I begged the DoorDash support agent to disconnect me from the order, as the app wouldn't let me do it from my end. Finally, they removed the order, just as the SUV got behind me again. It followed me through the neighborhood until, thankfully, I lost it in traffic one last time. Once I was sure no one was following me, I pulled into another busy parking lot and sat in my car, crying. Now it's the next morning, and my mind is still racing. Calling the cops at this point feels pointless. DoorDash hasn't checked in to see if I'm okay, or even alive. Should they be doing more to protect their drivers? Should I have handled the situation differently? One thing is certain. I'm never driving at night again. As a woman, I know things like this happen all the time. What would you do in this situation? Thanks for reading. I figured if anyone would understand how terrifying this was, it would be my fellow drivers. Stay safe out there.
Thanks for tuning in. Watch another video if you dare.